It is time for another episode of Interstate of Music. And with me today, I've got an awesome in-studio guest, and his name is Paul Van Name, and he's the district sales manager for that little itty-bitty guitar company they call Fender. I want to kind of start off by getting to know you a little bit more than just about all this Fender chatter, because that could take 3 hours to talk about, because that's just fun. But going all the way back, I mean, you've been doing guitars and in that world of sales of guitars and working with retailers for a total of how many years?
Oh, I would say at least 30.
So 30 years of being in the industry.
Yes.
When did guitars actually become part of your life versus just representing a manufacturer and going out and showing product and selling it? When did you start? Because you're a guitar player yourself.
Yeah, I play guitar and bass.
So when did that all start for you? Was that kind of like that same the time of like school band, like so many of us, or were you like, screw the school band, I'm going rock and roll, I'm right out of the gate?
The school band thing predated me by half a generation because, as you can see from this well-weathered face, I was impacted, as many people were, by the British invasion.
Nice.
So that's when everybody on the block decided they were going to get a group together.
Yep.
And I wanted to play drums. And my parents said, not in this house.
Oh, all right. Okay. Are you now looking back, are you still kind of bummed that you didn't do drums?
No, because I'm lousy at playing drums. And I'm not that great.
Yeah, but Paul, if you would have played drums this whole time, you wouldn't be lousy at drums. You'd be okay.
Theoretically.
Yes, theoretically.
Yes, that's true. And then I said, well, can I play guitar in the house and still get my allowance every Saturday morning regularly? And they said, yeah, acoustic guitar, but not electric. So I started with all that, took some lessons uptown, in my little area in Northwest Chicago, and learned how to play 3 chords. And then I learned how to play 2 more chords. And that,
I mean, you're ready to be a rock star just with 5 chords.
Well, if you learn a song that's 3 chords and you learn a song that's 2 chords, now you know 5 chords, you can play like 15 songs.
Yeah, that's real.
And going back to the Fender thing, that's what Fender Play is all about, is the instant gratification. Yeah. And this is not like an infomercial thing, but I loved that about Fender Play because that happened to me.
Yeah, it's real. That is real. I played saxophone for, I don't know, a couple weeks because it was hard. And I got no satisfaction. I got nothing. I'd go home, I'd try to read music, and I wouldn't be able to this. And I'm like, it's hard to play this. It doesn't make sense to me, and it was heavy to carry around. So I was like, I'm out. Peterson out. I'm not going to be a saxophone player. So I always am intrigued by other people's, like, how did you do it? I love that you started right away with lessons. How long did the lessons work for you before you started saying, yeah, but I want to play this song. I don't want to play Mary Had a Little Lamb anymore?
I had some really cool instructors. So we would go in with music that was on the radio, which was not terribly complex until maybe Sgt. Pepper came out in 67. Right. So it was very easy for me to just go with whatever the teacher was willing to teach me when I said, can you teach me how to play Pictures of Matchstick Men? And he'd come right back with it,
That's awesome.
But our paths, again, kind of followed an interesting similar path because I played saxophone. I lied a minute ago. I actually did start in band, and I brought that saxophone home. And to this day,
we are 4 minutes into this, and you're already lying to me, Paul. You've lied to me already.
There'll be more.
That's awesome.
There'll be more.
Love it.
But we are in sync because I brought that saxophone home, and I just opened the lid, and I gazed upon it, and I was sunk. I was in the world of music.
Oh, it's a beautiful instrument. And then when you pick it up and you actually put that little, clip it on and have it around your neck.
Right.
And then you try to actually not be able to look at anything that you're trying to play. And it gets hard real fast. It's hard real fast.
Playing harmonica is not easy.
No.
You can blow through it and you can drive everybody in the house crazy.
Yep.
But any musical instrument that you pick up, there's a path that you have to be devoted to taking, or you're not going to get the satisfaction out of it that it can deliver.
Makes sense. So your first guitar, new, used, where'd you get it, and what was it?
I bought it from my from the store that I took the lessons at.
Yep.
Because I realized that was protocol.
And even if it wasn't a Fender, Paul, I'm going to make you tell me exactly what that guitar was.
It was a Taisco Del Rey
Okay.
Japanese guitar.
Okay.
It was less than $50.
Yep.
And it was a good-looking guitar. And I just finished telling you that my parents insisted that I started on acoustic guitar. And like, you know, Uncle Bill has one, and he's coming over on Saturday. So I got saddled with this, you know, guitar that had action about this high. That's the distance between the strings and the fingerboard.
Yep.
And my fingers were bleeding. So when I got this little Taisco Del Rey guitar, it played super, super easy.
Oh, that makes
And
sense. Sure.
that helped me to advance much quicker and enjoy playing.
So how long did you actually own that exact guitar? Did it have meaning enough to hang on to it and move from place to place with you, or you're like, oh, this thing's pretty beat up? It's got
No, it did. It hung with me because all the other kids in the neighborhood had, you know, relatively inexpensive imported guitars.
Yeah.
And then when my buddy got a Gibson guitar and my other buddy got a Fender Mustang guitar, and we were very trustworthy in those days. So they'd let me borrow them.
Yeah,
you know,
right.
And I found out what it was to play a real guitar. Like my buddy's Fender Mustang I had for about 8 months until he had to, like, you know,
pry it out
of
of your
house.
hands.
Yeah, he had to pry it out of my hands.
And how long did it take for you to start looking at or wanting to actually play in front of anybody that you kind of like wanted to impress or see what they thought of how you're playing? Not just family, but like kind of, hey, let's get a band together. Hey, let's play out in front of people. Let's play in the garage in front of some neighborhood kids. Like, how long did that take you to get that confidence? Were you always kind of an outward person that way, or did it take a bit?
Well, it's an answer that won't be unique to me, but the minute I saw one of my buddies get recognition for playing in front of people, that's the only thing I wanted to do. I would project and live vicariously through my friends who had bands and that had, you know, cool equipment. And all of a sudden when I saw a group on television or I went to see a group, it was about the music, and then I was kind of looking in the background to see what kind of amp they had and which model of guitar they had.
So you quickly turned into a bit of a gearhead.
Well, yeah, and boys are that way with cars.
Sure, a lot of things. You know, it's like, you know, I had the beer can collection, you know, when I was in 8th grade. Like,
coins, stamps,
all of it.
The whole bit.
We get baseball cards all in.
Baseball cards are a classic.
So I suppose as a musician, that's exactly that same feel of I want to earn that. I want to have that someday. That's my goal. That's the you know the rookie card, you know, that you can't afford, the Michael Jordan rookie card. Like, that's what I want to have someday in my collection. That's that same thing. That's the guitar. That's the amp. That's what I want someday.
The one thing that's just slightly out of reach that you can aspire to and bend over and get it.
Yep.
But I'm a television baby, so obviously I became aware of brands very early on, and I'm a total brand guy to this day, just because that's the way I was cultured. So, you know, my little brother, who would be riding around in the car at the age of 4, he'd be Chevrolet, Ford, Chrysler. I mean, you just start to
pay attention to
and kind of become brand obsessive.
Yeah.
So it didn't take me long at all to discover that I wanted to play like a Hofner bass.
Yep.
Because Paul McCartney played one.
Yep.
And I just treated myself to one last year.
Oh, congratulations on that, by the way.
I had one before, but it wound up going to the rent when I was in college.
See, that is the struggle. My Michael Jordan rookie card that I did have and signed jersey are also no longer in my possession for very, very similar reasons. It's like, you know, at some point, it's a dollar amount that you just can't stare at. It's a dollar amount that has to help you get to the next level in your life.
Yes, and now you have to avail yourself to the fact that somebody else is appreciating it nearly as much as I might.
Totally. I'm just making somebody else check it off their bucket list.
Yeah, exactly.
I already checked it off, so on it goes.
You see, there are all kinds of little lies that
now
get
I'm so
told
pissed
to ourselves and to one another, like, I'm just glad he has it.
Yeah, and I'm so pissed, but I'm not going to go back and rebuy it.
That's right.
I'm like, it's not worth that, but whatever, it's fine. So as you kind of went through high school, were you doing the high school band thing? Were you doing?
No, I kind of fell out of the whole thing. I became interested in photography.
Okay.
I wound up going to USC Cinema School and wanted to be a director and learned how to...
What got you into that?
Well, I had a buddy that lived in the neighborhood, and he taught me about cameras, and he taught me about music, and he taught me about guitars. And I found after taking a couple of still photography classes that I had a knack for this, and that I loved being in the darkroom and so forth.
Yep.
And when you get to be about 16 and a half and that little bell goes off in your head, and sometimes it's your mother making sure that bell goes off in your head, what am I going to do? For the rest of my life? I have to pick a vocation. And I thought that being a movie director would be a great thing.
I mean, it would be a great thing.
At first,
right.
I went to Loyola University as a biology student and decided that I was going to become a doctor because they make a lot of money.
That would have also been good.
That would have been good.
Paul, there's a lot of things right here that would have been good.
I couldn't stand the sight of blood, so that was the end of that. Was a deal killer. So I was like, well, maybe it would be fun to be the next Steven Spielberg
and make bloody movies, maybe like gory movies, but no.
I've seen my share of John Carpenter movies.
That's awesome. So that's a big transition to move out to California.
It was, and I had to convince my parents that it was worth it, because if I was going to go, I don't mean this to sound big-headed, but if I'm going to do something, it's going to be with the biggest and the best, or I'm not going to do it.
Well, so that's where you went.
I convinced my parents that if I wanted to go into this crazy profession, which was to be a filmmaker, I either had to go to NYU or I had to go to USC or UCLA. And Northwestern University, because we're recording this in the Midwest,
right?
Just, Milwaukee, Chicago, right outside of Chicago. And fortunately, they turned me down. It was really tough to get into that school.
Oh yeah, it's still really tough to get.
Twice as hard to get into USC Cinema.
But the out of state thing play for you?
No, I lied again.
That's awesome.
And I was accepted in the School of Letters, Arts, and Sciences, and told my parents that good to go. And on the way to the airport, my mother said, "So you're in the School of Cinema, right?" And I said, "No, but I'll be in within a year." So I made it my business to get into the School of Cinema, and my chances were 460 to 8. They were looking for 8 people.
Right.
They were accepting 8 people, and there were 460 applicants. And I just made sure that I got in.
And so after...
It was a big transition.
So your sophomore year was when you kind of got into the program?
I jumped my junior year.
Okay.
Because a buddy of mine had let me direct a script that he had written. A buddy of mine from New York flew me out to New York, and we wound up shooting this crazy movie with a video camera and a box full of lights.
Yeah.
And all of his friends, and I was in the picture.
Right.
And I came back, and then I was totally steeled to the idea of doing this for a living.
So you finished up at USC?
Yeah, I'm a graduate of USC.
In the film?
Yeah, I'm a cinema.
So then what happened? Like did you go get a...
I fought my way into one of the major studios, and I worked at Universal, and I was on a whole bunch of different things, but I guess the one, if you Google my name, you'll see Jaws the Revenge, because my name appears on Jaws the Revenge. So I got to work with... What'd
you do on that show? Like what was...
I was a gopher.
Yeah, well, hey, that's fine.
Production assistant. But I fought my way in, and when the shooting company was out on location, I stayed at the lot, and I ran the whole production from the lot as the production coordinator. So I watched them spend $1 million making this horrible movie. Michael Caine was in the film, and he was on a talk show one day, and I just happened to be watching, and the clever talk show host said, "So what's your favorite movie, Michael?" I said, "Well, I couldn't possibly say, could I?" It'd be like saying what what is it? Sleuth, Hannah and her sister.
Right.
Which one? And he said, I couldn't possibly say, because it would be like saying who my favorite child is.
Right,
and he said, okay, well then what was your least favorite movie? And he said, Jaws the Revenge.
That's fantastic. You need to save that clip.
I have that to brag about, that Michael Caine, called out the film that I worked on with
That's
him.
fantastic. But it had nothing to do with you. It had nothing to do with you. Trust me.
Not directly.
Not directly. No. Indirectly.
So
perhaps. How long did you stay in Cali kind of doing the film thing? How long did you give it?
As I said, airport ride plus about 15 years, went to film school for 2 or 3, 4 years, and then I fought my way into Universal. I worked at MGM for a little while. And then I struck out to actually become a film director, and I did a feature-length film that I directed that never made it out of the can. But it was a great experience. That's like needle in a haystack getting into that world. I mean, and you knew that. I mean, the dream is real, but you know how difficult and how everything has to line for that dream. It's not just how good. There's fantastic people that never get that. That's for sure. And I'm not going to say anything terribly original here today, but you've heard. No, you're probably going to lie to me, Paul. You have to. I already have. My lips are moving. That's right. You've spoken to people who have heard you've got to be crazy to make it. Yeah. To make a go for it. Yeah. And unfortunately, people think that that's how you do it. It's a prerequisite. But just because you're crazy doesn't mean you're going to make it. Right. But you have to be a little nuts. But what a cool thing to have gone through to give you a different perspective and different drive in the rest of your journey. And nothing is wasted. Nothing. I think we've learned that. Right. So every single thing that I learned in the way that you edit a film and that you set the pace has helped me in sales. For sure. Even today, as I speak to you today, I am monitoring what you're saying and what I'm saying and being aware of the way this is pacing together. So nothing is ever wasted. I love that because that's so much, I've had, I do a nonprofit for kids career exploration, and, I talked to them about building out their LinkedIn profile earlier than they would think they should, and putting those jobs on there. And I'm like, if you worked at McDonald's, put it on there. Like, I don't want to say I worked at McDonald's on LinkedIn. Well, you learned something. And I'm like, put that you worked there, and then have a paragraph underneath it saying what you felt that you got from that experience and why you never want to work there again. Right. Well, you don't want to say I never want to work for McDonald's. I mean, someday they could be a bigwig at McDonald's or own a franchise. That's right. But so at what point did you get what was next after film? Like what was that next step? I mean, there's not. Like, where did you go? I met a girl. Oh. Yeah. So those stories always end well. I came home. Yeah, twice. He only met 2 girls in his whole life. I came home for the holidays to visit my family from California, and I met my first wife. And I had just written a script for a television show that my buddy, whom I knew from Universal, was the producer, and he stole the script from me. Put it on the air, and I said to my wife, I told my future wife what happened, and she said, have you ever thought about moving back to the Midwest where real people live? And it went ding. So I thought I'll get a job in film in Chicago. I mean, a lot of films because I had a great resume at that point. Right. I had done some things, right? And I found it was so cliquish that I couldn't possibly get even, I couldn't even empty waste paper baskets, at an editing company. So I thought I'd get a job because I still knew about guitars. Sure. So I thought I'd get a job at one of the big, box stores. Sure. For 3 weeks. And it was the longest 3-week job I ever had. I was there for 2 years. I became a top salesman there. Sure. Read a couple sales books, learned honed in on those skills. Not selling people, just putting people's best interests ahead of your own. Yeah, and totally. I became very successful that way. And one of the large guitar companies came in and recruited me right out of the store, and I started with them. And I worked with them for a number of years. I've worked for a number of different guitar companies, but I've been with Fender now for 9 years. That's awesome. And it's at an absolute golden age. People talk about the 50s and the 60s being the golden age infomercial. Right. With Fender. But now what Fender is doing is really astounding. And you don't have to take my word for it. Go to Fender and see what they're doing. Turn on a television set and see people that are playing. Isn't it crazy that, the golden, years, it's because like nowadays vintage
in the historian aspect of what those years were, and that those genres of music, and when things kind of were really getting started and stuff, that means so much more to our generation now, to look back on that and look at it and want it, kind of like that Michael Jordan rookie card and all of the 67 Mustang, all of that. It's a big deal, and we look back at it and say this. It's crazy how, if you look at what's going on right now with Fender, like you're talking about, it is all of that and then some. And I hope people take the time to actually look into it and really see the innovation, the style, the importance that they're putting in to the equipment, to the gear, for the musician. It's for the musician. That's the way Fender focuses, and you can tell, as big as the name is, as big as the branding is, it is still musician first in everything that they do, which I think is so cool. But maybe some generations are going to have to wait 30, 40 years from now to look back and say, oh my gosh, look what Fender was doing in 2020, 2021, 22, for it to have the mystique and the buzz of it. But go look at it now and really dig into it.
There's a national association that had a catchphrase, which is music makes you smarter. And I believe that, because it helps you to understand things like spatial relationships, so many notes per beat, so many beats per measure,
Sure.
all that kind of stuff. But I think that the main thing with guitar is that you can look back to the last century, and you saw when mandolin orchestras were very popular, and that lasted for 10 or 15 years. And then all of a sudden, ukuleles, in the 20s, you'd see the guy in the raccoon coat and the straw hat. That lasted 7-8 years.
Yeah.
And then in the 50s, if you wanted to be a popular guy, you played trumpet.
Right.
You didn't play guitar.
Yeah, big band.
But from 1955 until 1 minute ago, there was nothing cooler than playing electric guitar.
Right.
It's just been amazing that it's had a 55-year run as the thing to do for the angry young man, angry young lady, or gifted young man, gifted young lady, or somebody who wants to express themselves. And at this point, more than half of the new players are women, which is just fantastic.
That is fantastic.
The diversity that we're seeing with people picking, like in the 60s, you had girl groups.
Sure.
Now you're lucky if a group has got 4 guys in it, because it's all kind of become this very diverse ecosystem.
I love it.
And Fender's very much a part of that.
Yeah, I love where Fender's been going with that, with the Her guitar, and some of the the other things, even the marketing and the advertising, the way things have been just opening up, and kind of bringing the past and kind of tying it into the present is just a really cool vibe. So tell me a little bit about what you've been doing, what your journey looked like since you started with Fender to kind of where it is now, and what you see as what Fender's kind of just evolved in the last 9-10 years since you've been with them.
Well, the main thing is that working with Fender has brought me tremendous satisfaction, because my dealers, you can't be friends with your dealers, you can be friendly with your dealers, but to be accepted by my dealer base and have them trust in some of the things that I recommend, and to help them with marketing, and again, to do a whole lot of listening, twice as much listening as I'm doing right now. Helps them to be more successful. So that has been something that continues to bring me joy, more joy, with every passing year. And because Fender is such a dynamic environment, and I've been with Fender for 9 years, start my 10th year, end of this year, every year has been different. It's not like when I was with the big box store, they'd say, well, how long have you been with the big box store? And I'd say a year, and they'd say, you've been with them for 4 years. And I said, yeah, 1 year, 4 times.
Right. It's so
because it was the same thing over and over again.
It really is. And we've been a partner with Fender for less than a year now, as the reinvention of Interstate Music. And I just look at just what's happened in that time frame, and the innovation and the direction things are going. Again, Fender Play, when that kicked off, I immediately saw that as where have you been all my life, type of a thing, because I looked into it, I'm like, this is the way that you're going to reach and invent new players, because you're going to make it so much more accessible to anyone. And I love that thought process, because we've all gone through a time here now where inventories have been difficult, time to get the instruments has been difficult, and people, like, we're spending more time alone and trying to figure out, is this a time for me to start doing something that I've always wanted to do?
Yeah.
And there was this surge in the love of not just music, but in participating in what they have always wanted to do, but now had that what they thought was their personal time to accomplish it. And what a surge it was! I mean, insane. So perfect timing for a Fender Play to kind of come in and say, here, and you can use this, and this can be your own journey at your pace, and go that right. How has that increased, I would say, what Fender's looking at as far as a market share, not necessarily stealing market share, but creating market share?
Well, I think that everybody is brand conscious.
Yes.
So somebody's always chasing Hertz. If it's
Sure.
Avis,
Yeah.
it's not Avis,
Yeah.
it's Enterprise. So it's always been about that. But of course, the more it changes, the more it stays the same, right? So what people discover on their musical journey is that when they play a musical instrument, and right now we're talking about guitars,
Mm-hmm.
it's like when your dog runs away and things aren't going well at school, and your best friends pick a different click. You come home and you pick up that guitar
And you write a country song.
You've got a friend,
and you write a country song.
Where do you think they came from?
Right.
But you have a friend.
Right.
I wasn't the first one to say that. But
Yep.
but to pick up an instrument and it just brings it home to you. And just like when you and I were talking about off camera about being in the dark room, being in the dark room, and like 6 hours seem like 2 hours because you're just so into it.
Right.
You pick up that saxophone or you pick up that guitar and it starts to give back to you.
Right. And I think that's something that everybody wants to be something that they're not, because I don't have the time, I don't have the patience, I don't have the money, whatever. But there's always something we all have that we think we're not going to get. Like for me, someday I'll get a 1967 Mustang convertible. But even when you get the money that you think you can afford to do it, then you say, am I really worth spending that much on right now? There's other things that matter more. And sometimes it's the time that we give to ourselves to learn something that is forever. And that is a little bit about learning the guitar, very similar to a golfer. If you learn how to play the game of golf, you have it forever and you never get too old to golf. You definitely don't get too old to play the guitar, and it will be with you forever because, like you said, it is that trusting friend that doesn't talk back to you. It is something that you're going to always have as a tool, as that paintbrush for your next creation.
Yeah, and I mean, you can get satisfaction out of anything. Like
Right.
When I bought my first house, I learned how to mow the lawn really well, and I would look forward to mowing the lawn because I knew how to do it
You are crazy.
really well.
You are crazy.
You get
I hated mowing
satisfaction.
the lawn. I hated it. It made
Well,
my
it got me
shoes
out of the
green.
house.
Well, that's okay. I got
Okay,
you. All right. Yep.
the flip side of that
Yep.
record. Okay?
Right.
But I'm taking something as mundane as that and applying it to something that you get good at,
Yeah.
and personal satisfaction.
Right.
Of course, without excessive pride, is one of the highest states you can possibly reach. I had the pleasure of teaching my 16-year-old daughter how to play guitar.
That's cool.
And we had already tried putting her with lessons,
Yep.
and there are great instructors out
Sure.
there.
Absolutely.
But some of us get along, and some of us are positive, and some of us are polarized a different way. And she
Right.
had a bad experience with her instructor, so I had bought her a very nice Fender Mustang guitar, a really cute little guitar,
Yeah.
perfect size for her.
Yeah.
She was 13 then,
Yeah.
and she just went off of it. She was cold on it. It sat in the closet for 3 years.
Really?
And I visited her recently, and I taught her how to play Batman in 2 days. And
Wow.
again, it was immediate satisfaction.
Yeah.
She knew the song in her head.
Sure, right.
And I said, here are the frets that you play this on. And it almost brought me to tears because by the third night, she was playing it better than I was.
That's awesome.
So
that's really cool.
To be able to impart that to a young person who may be interested in their phones, you know, or you know, whatever they're into, and to bring them back to accomplishing something,
right,
like learning how to play a song and having that be good to you and bring it back to you, I think is something that really was a recent point of satisfaction.
Right.
That is probably the height of my year so far.
That's awesome.
But I lead a very dull life. So,
so as we kind of wrap up a little bit here, what's the coolest thing about Fender to you personally? Like, I know working there is kind of like, man, if you're going to, you know, work for a company and you're a guitar guy, and, you know, Fender's a pretty cool company to work for just by itself. But what is it about Fender that makes you feel like, man, this is cool. This is what I think is cool about Fender. What kind of hits that for you?
I would have to say the people. Okay. I'm really, really lucky to be working in the circle of people at Fender, because Fender is a big company, you know. Yep. So I work with a circle of people in sales that are very, very inspiring. Yeah. They're super smart. Yep. I was talking to my boss and I said, gosh, you know, that this guy, he's amazing. How long has he been at Fender? 18 years. This woman is amazing. How long has she been? And then it started to occur to me that you don't stay at Fender unless you're amazing. Yeah. You have to be doing something really, really right. And the people that I work with and the leadership that I've been provided have allowed me to have that feeling of doing things right. And I feel appreciated. When somebody new comes to Fender, what's the best thing about working for Fender? And it's 110% true, because they're the company that makes the Stratocaster and the Telecaster. Right. So it's all about the product. And then after a couple of years, it's the product. It's part of your family. It's right. Like your dad's a jet pilot, but you don't think he's that cool, whereas he's got the coolest job in the world. And, right. And you work for Fender that makes the best equipment in the world. Sure. And again, when you see the band and you look back there, you're always going to see that Fender logo on the amplifiers and on the guitars. But it still comes back to the people. But it's the people. The people who inspire you every single day to do better, to hone your craft, and to put other people's best interests ahead of your own. And I do that with my dealers. Mm-hmm. And that's how I was successful at the big box store. Yeah. And that's how I, did all the things, the few things that I've outlined to you is always by, being very conscious right. of the opportunity and the way that you're perceived and putting other people's best interests ahead of your own. I'll wrap it up with one more question. And that is, if you could only buy one more Fender guitar, which one would it be? A Fender 12-string, baby. That's How can you beat that? I mean, when you've got your bucket list, and I've probably got, and it's not a lot, mm-hmm. but I've probably got maybe 15 or 20 Fender guitars. Awesome. But you start running out of, now I've got 6 Stratocasters, so what am I going to get, a purple one now? Well, if I want to, I'll work toward that. Right. But to have a 12-string, a Fender 12-string electric guitar. That's awesome. They only make them every couple of years, like as
get yourself on the list.
A factory special run. Yeah. You have to be prepared for when it comes out, because they'll do a short run of these guitars and they go to the dealers immediately, and there's a lot of people just like us that snap those up, just yep. like you got your right. HER yep. Strat. Yep. You have to buy it when it's there. I absolutely love it. So thank you for being part of the show and sharing your journey, your story. And, obviously we're big Fender fans. There's a lot of big Fender fans out there, but I'm a big Paul Van Name fan. And I love having you on the show and getting to know you. I really appreciate that. Thank you, Jeff, and to everybody at Interstate Music. I appreciate it. This is Jeff Peterson. This was the Interstate Music Podcast. This is Paul Van Name, and we're having fun, man. Pay attention, follow us, and
and we'll bring you a lot of interesting people out there with cool journeys, cool stories. It's not always just about the products and the brands. Sometimes, Paul, it is about those people, isn't it?
It always is. It always comes back to that.
Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.